Welcome back, Titan guys. Tonight we're going to be installing a rear sway bar on this Pro 4X. I've got the Hellwig Products rear sway bar here. These are the parts we're going to use, and the tools we're going to use are 3/4 and 5/8 wrenches and sockets, and there's all the hardware. So let's get onto the truck and let's get started. This is going to be the same for all 04 to 015 rear wheel drive, all wheel drive, long short wheelbase Titans. So first off, we've got to install our U-bolts over the axles. Make sure you are under any brake lines. So just after this first bend here on the right side, and we're gonna watch out for that wire there. Brake line here. So we're gonna be in a similar spot on this one. There's a bracket there that you're not going to be under. I kind of want them similarly spaced, so we might try bending that bracket up a little bit over there so they're even. And the instructions say put your axle clamps on. And just start your nuts on. I grabbed one of the wrong nuts, so I'm just going to put one on for now. Come back with the right nut. So we're zoomed in here on this U-bolt. This ABS wire bracket is kind of in the way. I want to move the U-bolt to the outside of the axle to match up. And I'm just going to gently bend that. I don't want to touch the brake lines, but I know there's lots of clearance on this ABS wire. There we go. We want to put everything on loosely, get everything lined up before we tighten stuff down. So after that, grab your bushings and your bushing brackets. 2 of each. The kit does come with grease for the poly bushings, so you're going to want to add a little bit. I'm going to put that around in there a little bit, loop that up. That's what your sway bar is going to go through. I'll probably put a lot more in there than that. Those are going to go around your sway bar. D bracket. It's going to go up on the axle bracket. Nuts started on. For a second. This part is under the truck looking up. Take your threaded frame bracket. It's going to sit up on the frame. So there's our leaf spring there. Exhaust, spare tire. Go right about here to start. It's going to be a little tricky. I have to watch out for this wiring harness here. We go through that on both sides, and then our long bolts are going to go up into that. Let me grab those. So this is what's going up there. You're going to have to put washers on this too before you put it up there, but you get the idea. it's going to go up and thread into that bracket up there. I'm going to do that off camera and show you what it looks like installed, and then we'll move to the next step. So I got the bracket up. This part of the stall I don't really like. It would have been much better with just the U-bolt coming down, like same as the axles. It's hard to get both bolts up there and thread it into that bracket. You are farting around. I meant to say fighting. You're fighting with this wiring harness here. You're also fighting with this seam on the frame. Your bracket's not sitting quite flush. I'm sure it will work out when everything's lined up and tightened down. But yeah, I don't even know if this is going to line up perfectly here. I may have to move it back, and then I got to go around that wiring harness again. But yeah, I recommend wearing a hard hat on this too. I had one bolt come down, which missed me, but the other part, the whole thing fell down once, and a hard hat would have been nice for that. But we'll do the other side and see how things line up. Passenger side bracket is up. Pretty much the same issues. There's a wiring harness on top of the frame on this side. There's also a seam on top of the frame, and the seam on the bottom of the frame. But it's up. Yeah, well, I think a U-bolt would be a lot easier. Just put it over top, come down. But we'll get it together and see how it is. We're going to assemble our end links, and I'm not sure why these didn't come pre-assembled, but I'm going to put a bit of grease on these. This is very sticky grease too. So I got both of these assembled. I lubed up the rubber bushings, pushed them in with the vise, and then lubed up the steel bushings and pushed them in with the vise as well. It's starting to get dark, so I'm going to finish this up tomorrow night, and we'll get it installed and try it out. Next step will be to take your, whatever these are called, slide them up into there, and use the nut and the lock nut, and put it together, but leave it loose so you can line everything up. One thing I forgot to do was to install the washers under those nuts, so make sure you do that. There's 4 more washers to go under the nuts on both sides. That's the position of the U-bolt on the passenger side. So the next part is to assemble the end links here. So start with the thin jam nut. There's 2 jam nuts, and they'll go on the top. They got to go up there quite a bit, so I'll speed this up. And then your hex nut washer. We probably still have to go higher. Your 2 rubbers are going to go on either side of the sway bar, like that. So we have to go. Second rubber and washer. And then on the bottom there's a lock nut. Alright, so in the instructions, the next step is to tighten these together so the rubber starts to squish. So I am going to bring this nut up so it's flush, so all the threads are on, and then I'm going to use a wrench to tighten this down and then tighten the jam nut down on top of that. So we're going to go up a little bit more. The bottom nut up. I want that lock nut fully on the bolt. Grab my wrench. Still up a tiny bit more. Doesn't feel like it's getting tight, but I think it's starting to bulge. Alright, it's definitely snug now. Bottom is tight, for sure. There. Now bring a jam nut down. Okay, with the end links assembled, we're going to go through and start to tighten things up. We're going to do it gradually, not one at a time, just so we can get everything lined up. We're going to start with these, get these brackets up against the axle, and then I'm going to move to the top, get those brackets tightened up there, and then we'll come back around and torque everything down. There are torque specs in the instructions, so we'll mention those as well. So once you've got everything lined up and snugged up, you're going to want to take your torque wrench, torque everything down. For these, it's 50 to 70. I'm going to do 50. I'll take the truck for a ride and we'll retorque everything else. So you need a long socket for these ones. And you kind of want to evenly torque them. And that one's good. Okay, that one's good. Do the other side. So with these nuts tightened up, there's another set of nuts. Lock those on. We'll get them up there. I don't know if I bump the threads on these or what. Next up, I'm going to torque down these 5/8 bolts, all 4 of them. And the torque spec is 35 to 45. I'm going to do 35. I don't feel like crushing or bending anything right now, so we'll go with the lower torque spec. Alright, I'll move on to the end links, and there's one oddball size here that I haven't mentioned yet. These nuts are 11/16 and the bolt's 5/8. So these guys up here, they don't really give a torque spec for this. I would tighten it till you have a little bit of thread showing and you start to squish that bushing. If you keep going, you'll just squeeze that bushing and make it bulge. And then on these guys, same thing. Snug them all down and tighten it so these rubbers are bulging a little bit. Squish down. I've got a little bit of thread showing. You want to adjust this height up and down so your sway bar is level, and we're pretty level across. I've got everything tightened up now, so this is what we look like. And it goes up to the frame. Now I've got Now all I've got left is to try it out. So if this video was interesting or helpful to you, please like and subscribe, hit the bell notification so you get all my Titan videos, and thanks for watching.